Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I wanted to sit down and share my experience, my story with losing what I thought was my village as a first-time mom, to also share how I lost myself in motherhood but also found myself again at the end of it. I know this is an experience that is shared by so many other moms, so I know I'm not the only one, and maybe you've gone through something similar, or maybe you're about to become a mom for the very first time too. And I share this experience and these, tips that have worked for me in the hopes that they could help you plan better for that worst case scenario that you do end up on your own, or mostly on your own, and you don't have that support, because becoming a new mom is jarring. It can be an identity crisis. Obviously, many women go through postpartum blues, postpartum depression, and I feel like having a village or a good, support system, or just planning ahead of time in case you don't have that support, can help lessen the mental load and the stress that happens during that first year of motherhood. So I want to start with just giving a little backstory to my situation and how I found myself there. So my husband and I had moved to Hawaii, and that's where we met initially 7 years ago. So I wanted to bring my first baby into this world in the place that we had met and fallen in love. His family was living here in the Philippines, where we are now, and then my family was living in North Carolina. So we were about as far away from each other as we could get. So we didn't have any family nearby us. It was just my husband and I, and a handful of friends, or people that I thought were friends, that I was counting on to be my village whenever I gave birth to my son. My husband took 3 months off of work, which is something I'm so grateful for. That's so much more than a lot of women are able to get from their partners. But yeah, we didn't have family to count on. I had my small village, and that's kind of what I was centering my postpartum experience around, and that's what I was planning for, basically. I wasn't planning to be on my own. Fast forward, I delivered my baby, and first 2 months were, the ideal situation. I had my husband at home. I had my midwife checking on me almost every single week, and then I had 2 to 3 friends, also fellow moms, that were coming and checking on me like once or twice a week, bringing food if I needed that kind of support, or just, there as someone for me to talk and vent to, and just to share the struggles of, my postpartum experience. If you watch my other videos, I go into my breastfeeding journey, and that's where a lot of my struggles postpartum came from, was just how hard it was to nurse my son. And that's where, I struggled mentally in a way, or like that pressure of trying to figure out how to feed my baby and it not working out. So yeah, just having that support system early on was helpful, and I was grateful for them. But again, like so many women experience, so many mothers experience, people come to, visit the mom, see the baby early on for maybe a couple weeks, the first couple of months. Everyone just wants to see the baby, and then they vanish, and then you're left sitting there like wondering what happened, where did everybody go? I thought I had people there for me. And that's more or less what happened to me. About 2 to 3 months postpartum, they vanished. Yeah, one mother completely dropped off the grid. There was no way for me to contact her. The other one just started to distance herself. They were also mothers, so that's what I thought, that there would be that camaraderie, there would be that understanding how important it is for new moms to receive that support. In those first few months of becoming a new mom, it was disappointing, and that hit me hard mentally also, just knowing that okay, where did everybody go? I thought we were friends. I thought I had a village, a wonderful village, and I never got to the point where I had postpartum depression. But man, it hit me hard, and I had a lot of emotional days and just struggling to accept my new reality, because also 2 to 3 months postpartum is when my husband had to go back to work. I found myself alone for the very first time without really having anyone to check on me. No one was messaging me, no one was asking me how I was doing. I was isolated, essentially. Like, I could obviously go out of the house, but I didn't have anyone close to me that I could count on, that I could ask for help, that I could ask for advice. I'm the type of person that doesn't make friends easily, plus being a new mom, like, it was hard getting myself out there in the world. It was already difficult. It was challenging, like so many other new moms experience, like that discomfort of trying to get back out into the world when you have a newborn baby and the fears that come with it. So I didn't get out of the house until much later. Maybe when I was like 4 or 5 months postpartum, then I started going out of the house. But you know, it wouldn't be often enough that would really make a difference in, I guess, my mental health. And obviously, again, I'm at home alone. My husband was working a full-time job. He was working 3 jobs actually, and some days he would be gone 12, 13 hours, and that would probably be 4 to 6 days a week. Like, it was, Hawaii is expensive, in case you didn't know. So he was working a lot to provide, and I'm grateful for that, but that also meant that I was on my own the vast majority of the time, navigating all the breastfeeding struggles and just trying to figure out how to be a mom. Somewhere along the way, I don't know what month it was, but I started to struggle more mentally, and I was starting to feel like I was losing myself. I just got caught in a routine that I wasn't really happy about, but I didn't really know what I could do about it or how to get myself out of the rut that I was in. So basically, I didn't really have much support to take care of myself, and you know, prioritizing self-care was not on the list. It was about survival, taking care of my baby, and also trying to take care of our home, just because I was home alone all the time and, you know, having to feed myself. There was definitely a lot of days where I just didn't eat enough because I didn't have the time to make food for myself and also take care of my baby, who hated being put down. He was also born really small, so I couldn't baby wear him until he was a few months old, just because the carriers that I had, like, he needed to be 8 pounds and he was like 6-7 pounds for a while. So all of those things combined made it challenging at home almost on a daily basis, and I was on my own, and that's something I had to come to terms with at a certain point, because nothing was going to change anytime soon. And I knew I didn't want to be a miserable mom. My son deserved better than that. My husband deserves better than that. And I deserve better than that. So there was an understanding that I had started to slip away and I had started to lose myself in motherhood. And I wanted to find my way back to myself. And at first it just started with journaling a lot and trying to get a clearer picture of the type of mom that I wanted to be, the type of just new version of me that I wanted to be outside of being a mom, because that was kind of where I was stuck. Like, what is my purpose in life besides being a mom? Who am I outside of being a mom? It's like everything that I was doing before I became a mom and my lifestyle before just got thrown out the window. Just as an example, I am a martial artist and I had been training jiu-jitsu for 6 years and leading up to becoming a mom, and I trained jiu-jitsu until I was 5 months pregnant. Like, I went till the very last second until I knew, like, okay, this is not safe anymore. And I knew that day would come and I would have to give it a break, and my plan was to go back to training jiu-jitsu a few months postpartum. But that also flew out the window just because of a lot of external situations, like more specifically my husband working all the time. I didn't have the support to be able to leave my baby in the care of someone else for a couple of hours to be able to go train. So I had to kind of sacrifice that and put it on the back burner for the time being. I knew that I would come back to jiu-jitsu eventually, but I didn't get back to it as soon as I hoped I could. I knew jiu-jitsu would help me with my mental health like it had before when I was going through another season of depression when I was younger. But that's just an example of something that I lost that I did not know how to get back. I knew it would help me find my way back to myself again, but it was just realistically impossible to train jiu-jitsu at that time of my life. So I had to get creative, like, okay, who can I realistically be at this point in my life, this season, specifically that first year of being a mom. Journaling on that and seeing like, okay, what are the different things I can do? How can I practice self-care with as little time as possible? Like, how can I fill my cup with just 5 minutes to spare? Because I really did not have any free time on days that I was home alone. You know, I was always just on, always being a mom. And this brings me to another point where I was just going through the motions. I had no morning routine. I had no nighttime routine. I wasn't getting changed out of my pajamas until maybe 2 to 3 hours after I had woken up. Like, I would wake up, take care of my baby, and then jump into making breakfast for like my husband because he would have to go to work. I would just wake up and immediately be in mom mode, wife mode, and yeah, later in the day I'd be like, oh, let me get changed, let me brush my hair at least and put some moisturizer on, and that was it. That was the extent of my self-care. And I know that's maybe a lot to some moms. Like, some moms are single moms. They don't have any support whatsoever. Like, you're truly on your own. And I have to say, yes, I did have my husband, and I'm so grateful for him. He did his best to help me in the mornings, or you know, watch our son so I can make breakfast and quickly clean up whatever needed to be done, just kind of do what I needed to do to prep myself for a day of being by myself. Same thing at nighttime. Like, we got into a sort of routine, but it wasn't the type of routine that really filled my cup and helped me feel nourished. And there came a point where I was crying almost every single day because I would lay down to go to bed and just think about my day and realize that I did absolutely nothing for myself besides take care of my baby and try to take care of the house so it wouldn't be a pigsty. Because my environment, like, if it was messy, my mental health would be even worse. So like, I would do the bare minimum, and I was in survival mode, plain and simple, and there was not much that I could do for myself. And yeah, I was just truly feeling lost in motherhood, feeling lost within myself, lack of direction. I wasn't working on any personal goals. So again, I knew I didn't want to stay like that. I knew I didn't want to be a miserable mom. So it was like a very slow process of coming back to myself and trying to figure out how can I adjust to my new life, my new reality, and not hate it. And also to fall in love with the new version of myself. The journaling helped just kind of like map it out, give myself some options, some ideas of what I could do to fill my cup. Realistically speaking, I wasn't able to do a lot of those things until he was a little bit older. Then I would, you know, maybe try to go out of the house by myself like once a week. But that was still a challenging thing for me to do just as a new mom, like the anxiety of going out into public with a baby that's just crying all the time, and mainly because of the breastfeeding struggles. He had a tongue tie and we got the surgery to revise it when he was 2 months old. So overall, breastfeeding, especially in public, would have been a nightmare, a mess, chaos, crying from him, from me. So that added to that anxiety of like, oh, what if I have to feed my baby in public? Then I have to go hide in the car, and then it's just hot and chaotic. So I just did not get out of the house that much. So now I want to share how I did start coming back to myself. It first started with getting a gym membership, and I would only go once a week because realistically that's all that was doable. Rarely I would go 2 times. And this would be early in the morning, like 6 in the morning. I'd wake up, feed my baby, leave him with my husband, and then drive down to the gym that was 5 minutes away. Thankfully, it was so close. And I would work out for an hour, come home, shower, and then my husband would have to go to work right away. So that was really the only time I could get a workout in. I would try to do some home workouts, but it was just, again, it was hard to stay consistent. That was like the main struggle with like working out at home or really trying to do anything for myself, was just a lack of consistency. I want to share something first for the women that are about to be moms. So the overall mentality that I had stuck to during this time was that I decided that I would fully surrender to that first year of motherhood, because it's really such a roller coaster of change and learning and growth from both, you know, mom and baby. and just a huge adjustment. As hard as it was in the beginning, when I made that decision that I was going to start coming back to myself, I also had to accept the fact that, hey, it's going to be challenging this first year, and to not put so much pressure on myself to have it all together so early on, not to like bounce back physically, mentally, or habits wise or anything, but to start building my way back to myself brick by brick, day by day. And it didn't have to be anything so grand, but just having that understanding, that acknowledgement that the first year is just going to be pure chaos, most likely, that gave me more peace within myself. And again, just like releasing that pressure to have it all together as a new mom with no village and very little support. So that's just like my first tip. If you're about to be a mom, adopt that mindset that like, hey, first year, you're just figuring it out. Maybe you are in survival mode. As like a side note, I think what I wish I did, I wish I had stuck to at least one non-negotiable every single day, and kind of like an anchor point that no matter how crazy or chaotic life got, that I could do this one little thing every single day, and that would help me stay anchored to myself and not to lose myself in whatever was going on around me. I didn't do that. Again, consistency was very hard for me, but that's something that I wish I had thought about beforehand. You know, I started to figure that out later on in my postpartum experience, where like, okay, I need to create my non-negotiables to stick to, and that would help me start building that consistency, building my self-confidence back in myself, because I had let myself go for so long that I just didn't really know where to start. And it started with my morning routine. That was like the first thing. So for me, my morning routine was reading my Bible and praying, and also doing a little stretch routine. This became anchored about 13 months postpartum. So it was just inconsistent all over the place until 13 months postpartum. I finally got it down, and now I don't go a day where I skip those three things. Like first thing in the morning, I stretch, I read my Bible, and I pray, no matter what. And that helps me start my day on the right foot. Plus, starting my day with God, like 10 out of 10 makes me a better mom. Like I can't go without that. And then stretching anchors me to my body. That's something I used to do a lot as well. So slowly regaining those old parts of myself that had slipped away over time. But just to backtrack a little bit, when I was within that first year of motherhood, the main things that I started doing on as regular of a basis as possible. I didn't try to do it every single day, because some days were just so chaotic. I just had to stay home and do like the bare minimum to get through my day. But as often as possible, a few times a week, I would go to the park that was nearby and just hang out there with my baby, put out a blanket, and just mainly just getting outside, getting out of the house played a huge role in my mental health and surviving those really rough days. And then when my baby was big enough to be held in a baby carrier, I started going on walks a lot more. And he was a contact napper, so pretty much all of his naps were in a carrier. And we had a really long driveway, which I'm really grateful for. So I would just wear him, and I would go on a walk for like 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, and then I would go back home and finish his nap at home. So those two things, just again, getting outside, getting out of the house, getting the fresh air, the sun, made such a difference in my mental health. Like if that was the only thing that I did, I would have felt accomplished. I would have felt a little bit better about myself. I did my best to, I guess, also romanticize my life, romanticize the situation. I would light candles or incense, I would play music, I would play a podcast, I would make myself a matcha. You know, I would do those little things as often as I realistically could at that time, just to try to spice up my life a little bit. It was those little things that helped me slowly get back to myself, back to feeling like my new self. Because again, my old self was gone. There's no way I'm going back to her. And, you know, just having to fall in love with my new life as a mom and not to feel like it was a burden to be a mom, but a blessing. And this leads me to the next thing that I wanted to share, which ties into rediscovering myself as a mom, and that was finally getting back to training jiu-jitsu. So again, another backstory. We were living in Hawaii and we made the decision to move here to the Philippines because cost of living is way less here, and also to have some support from family. So we're living with my husband's parents, and I'm so grateful to be here because we have help, which is something I didn't have before, and it's like a practice still in a way to accept that help and allow someone else to hold my baby, who is now a toddler. So because we were in a very transitional period, it was just really hard to go train. Like, I did not train jiu-jitsu consistently for 2 years. Within those 2 years, I had probably only trained 5 times. Compared to before becoming a mom, I would train 5 days a week, sometimes twice a day. So I went from doing the most to doing like nothing. And jiu-jitsu really made me who I am today. It was there for me in some of the most loneliest, most depressed seasons of my life when I was younger. And I'm glad I had it at that time. And then now, coming full circle to being a mom and losing myself, I knew that was the one thing that was missing. I got to a point where my morning routine was down. I was stretching every day. I was doing this and that, but yet I still didn't have jiu-jitsu. I kind of knew that it wouldn't be doable for me to start training again until we finally made our move here to the Philippines. So I really just had to wait it out, and we're here now. It's been a month and a half and I'm back to training jiu-jitsu. I'm going like 2 to 3 times a week. Within the very first class that I went to, it was like that. I felt like a switch came on. I felt like I had come alive again. It's nuts how my mental health shifted so quickly. I was reminded, like, oh yeah, this is who I am. I'm a martial artist, but I'm also a mom now. I loved that feeling. Like, it really makes me feel alive every time I go train, and it's something that's a non-negotiable for me now, is to go train 2 to 3 times a week, no matter what. Like, that is a priority. And every time I've shown up to go train, I feel like old dead skin is like falling off of me. I'm coming alive again. I'm rediscovering myself through jiu-jitsu, through this martial art that did so much for shaping my, I guess, personality and my confidence. And my identity was really rooted in this martial art. So not having it for that long period of time really made me struggle with my identity, and I felt like an imposter calling myself a martial artist when I hadn't trained for so long. And I felt like I'd forgotten everything that I had learned in the 6-7 years of training. I thought it just flew out the window, but what do you know, it hadn't, and I'm glad it didn't. I had like the muscle memory. I was still really good at what I do, and I guess to add to that, I used to teach jiu-jitsu a lot before at my old gym, and now I'm back to teaching classes here as well. So it's been so refreshing and so fun getting back to that one thing that really made me feel my most confident, my most badass, my most capable and happiest self, which is jiu-jitsu. And I know so many other people have experienced this, where they say that jiu-jitsu saved their lives, and jiu-jitsu definitely did that for me in the past. And then this time it saved me in a different way. You know, it saved me from slipping away and becoming the shell of the person that I used to be. So overall, what I wanted to share with this story is my strong recommendation and suggestion to have a non-negotiable form of movement. If there's something that you did before becoming a mom, or that you're doing right now and you're about to become a mom, figure out a way to keep doing that, even if it looks different. You know, it obviously doesn't have to stay the same. Like, for example, I wish I would at least have found a way to show up to jiu-jitsu classes and just watch, even if I wasn't actively training. That's something I wish I had done, just so I can stay in the environment, stay in that community, and not feel so isolated because I wasn't in that community. But you know, it is what it is. I'm here now, I'm back to training, and my point is that having that movement, having that form of exercise is what's gonna help you regain your confidence in yourself. And the last thing that I wanted to share that helped me to find myself again as a new mother was to practice cycle syncing. Traditionally, the way it's practiced is when you're bleeding. You know, you have your 4 phases, you have varying energy levels during each of those 4 phases, and you kind of tailor what you're eating and how you move your body to those phases. But I wanted to share it from a different perspective, especially if you don't have a menstrual cycle. I didn't get my period back until I was about 9 months postpartum. How I approach cycle syncing at that phase, and now that I do have my cycle back, but again, specifically speaking to that phase where I didn't have my cycle, I approach cyclical living from a day-to-day basis versus a weekly basis. However, I would wake up, I would do a mental check-in with myself. I would kind of see where my energy is. That was like the most important thing to check in with. Like, was I feeling high energy? Was I feeling mid energy? Was I feeling low energy? And based off of my energy levels, I would treat that day in relation to what cycle phase my energy lined up with. So as an example, if I woke up with a lot of energy, I would treat that day as if I was in my ovulation phase, or like follicular / ovulation phase, because that's typically when your energy and confidence is the highest. So I would take advantage of those days. I would seize that day, like whatever needed to be done around the house or within like my personal life. I would use my energy to get as much done as possible because I knew it was temporary, because very likely the next day I would wake up and my energy would be much lower, maybe super low, depending how the day went. And I would treat that day as if I was in my menstrual phase. So doing very, bare minimum tasks, low effort things, not to say I was in survival mode those days, just not putting any extra pressure on myself to do the most. It was more so, like, let's just take care of myself, let's take care of my baby, let's not worry about anything else. Maybe the most I'll do is throw in a load of laundry, and that's about it. This is kind of how I approach cyclical living at that phase. Again, daily cycle phases versus weekly cycle phases. And it wasn't perfect, but this is how I found myself to be productive in a sustainable way, to avoid burning out, especially as a mom when there's already so much more being demanded of me just from my baby alone. And this helped me to take care of myself better and to fill my cup with like self-care activities that also correlated to those different cyclical phases. Also wanted to share one more thing, and I will wrap up this video, and that is that I am releasing my first ebook on cycle syncing. I'm super excited about it. I've been working on it for a long time, and it's been on the back burner just because of pregnancy and postpartum, but I'm ready to release it. It is currently a wait list, but it's coming out really soon, within the next week or 2. And I want to share it because we all need this information. We need to know how to better take care of ourselves so we don't burn out, because that is such a common experience, is the burnout, to feeling like we have to do so much and that we're not deserving of rest. And I really hope that it could be helpful for you. So if that's something that you're interested in and you want to get on the wait list, comment down below ebook, or DM me on Instagram and also DM me the word ebook, and I'll put you on the wait list so you can be the first to get access to this wonderful ebook where I poured my heart and soul into sharing everything I learned about cyclical living, along with cycle syncing during postpartum and also pregnancy, and how I'm approaching also entrepreneurship utilizing cyclical living. So that's it for this video. I hope you found the information I shared here helpful and you found some encouragement. You're not alone. You're gonna get through it. It's just a season, okay? Surrender to that first year. Remember, it's never too late to start over. You will find yourself again as a mom. I promise.